Today, we are dealing with design of digital control systems on the topic digital controller design based on root locus in the Z plane from module 4. This is for the 8th semester electrical and electronics engineering students. The faculty handling the session is Dr. Matthew Abraham, Assistant Professor, Department of EEE, TKM College of Engineering, Kollam. Dr. Matthew Abraham has done his BTech in EEE from TKM College, MTech in Control Systems from CET, and PhD in Systems and Control Engineering from IIT Bombay. The total duration of the session will be for 1 hour, 40 minutes will be for session, and 20 minutes for clearing the doubts. The students can post their questions using the Q&A option available. At the end of the session, the students are requested to give their feedback using the feedback option available. These sessions are also available in our official YouTube channel, ASAP Kerala Official. So let's start the session. Over to you, sir.
Okay. So the topic for today's session is digital controller design based on root locus in the Z plane. And this topic is coming as a part of module 4 of the course EE 462, design of digital control systems. I am Matthew. Have been already introduced. So in this session, what I'll do is I'll give since you already know about the root locus design in continuous time case in the S plane, it's not very much hard to understand the root locus in Z plane. But the critical thing is to understand the key differences between a controller design in continuous domain case as well as the discrete domain case. So in this session, first I'll introduce the basic concept of a digital controller, how digital controller is being designed, what are the different approaches. Then I'll move to the root locus design of digital controller in Z plane. Okay. So now I'm in the second slide. So digital controller and introduction. So the figure that is drawn above, I hope you can see the figure. It's about the feedback, the very normal feedback control system that you have been seeing for maybe last 2 years. So here G of S represents the continuous time plan. G of S is the continuous time plan, and U of T is the control input to the continuous time plan, and Y of T is the output of the continuous time plan. And you have a desired output or reference input, which is given by R of T, and you take the feedback of the system output by using some sensor, and you are compared that to the reference flag. And the difference of the reference and output is compared to obtain the error value. And you design some controller which takes some control action so that the output of the controller is given to the plan U. So here G of S is the continuous time plan, D of S is the continuous time controller. So the classical control problem is if you are given with the plan transfer function and if you are given with the reference input, how to design such a controller DOPs. There are a lot of different types of controllers that you have come across. For example, PID controller. If you come to a little more advanced, you have sliding controller, modal predictive controller, and there are a lot of different control design approaches that are available for the continuous time case. So here you note that here everything is in continuous time domain or in frequency equivalent, everything is in S domain. Okay, so but the problem is that nowadays nobody is using analog controllers to implement the control. So nowadays everybody is going for some digital form of controller to implement this controller. So in the classical one or in the analog case, you must be able to implement the controller in some analog. Maybe if you are using PID controller, you need to use some circuit which implement the PID. For example, you can use op-amp circuits, or uh, if you are implementing some other analog controller, you need some analog devices to implement the controller, because you are giving input, the error input, as a function of time, and you must be able to obtain the output of the controller also as a function of time. So it's an infinitely the samples or the value should be available infinitely. But we know that nowadays the controller is digital. You cannot give some signal which is infinite over time, and hence you need to use some uh, digital controller which can be represented by using D of Z. Hope you know this, because you might have already studied about the pulse transfer function in module 2 of this course. So I'm hoping that you already know about pulse transfer function, which is basically uh, the form in which give uh, you can give digital input and you can obtain digital output. So if the digital controller is available in pulse transfer function, then you can implement that in a digital controller. So if you look at digital controller D of Z like this, it can take in E of K, where K is sampling instances, or it depends upon the sampling period of the period of the processor. So it takes in signals at those periods and outputs the signals at that particular period, or in digital. So it takes in digital input and takes out digital output. So that is how you can implement a digital controller. Now the question is, now you have the plant which is continuous time case, or which is in continuous time domain, but the controller is digital, or it's in discrete time domain. Now, how can you interface these two? Because these are two different domains. One is in continuous time domain. The controller is now in digital domain, or in Z domain. So, in order to interface these two, the continuous time plan and the discrete time controller, you need to have some devices in between these. That means from the digital controller to the continuous time plan, you need to have some digital to analog conversion devices, like maybe hold devices are examples, zero order hold and first order hold. Similarly, from continuous time domain back to digital time domain, you need to have some ADC, maybe some sampling and quantization. So if you have these devices, then you can interface the continuous time plan and the discrete time controller. So here, notice that still we have the input to the plant is analog, output of the plant is also analog, but the ADC is converting the analog output in digital form, which is being conveyed with the reference, which is also in digital form, so that you obtain the error in digital, and that error is given to the controller D of Z, and it outputs a digital control signal U of K, which is converted into analog using digital to analog control. Okay, so that is about digital control. So the problem, I'll just restate the problem. So the problem is, if you are given with the continuous time plan, remember the plan is it's generally continuous time. So if you are given with continuous time plan, and if you know the sampling period and the hold device, which is the hold device that you are using, how to design such a digital controller is the problem in designing digital controller. So I'll just repeat it once again. If you are given with the continuous time plan GFS and sampling period capital T, and if you know the type of hold device that you are using, how to design a digital controller DFS. So there are mainly two approaches in designing this digital controller. First approach is called as design by emulation. So this is a straightforward approach. So I'll just go back to the previous slide. If looking from here, what you can observe is, you know how to design DFS, because there are lot of expertise in designing DFS. Suppose you are given with a continuous time plan, you know how to design D of S. So the natural question is, why can't you build a digital equivalent of D of S? So what is the form of D of S when you discretize it? Or if you find an equivalent discrete of D of S, what it will do? So that is basically designed by emulation. Use the expertise in designing the analog controller. So first you design the controller in analog domain or in continuous domain itself. Then you discretize to obtain the discrete controller. So there are different discretization methods available. I'll just mention some of those. The discretization methods are impulse invariant method, zero order hold equivalent method, first order hold equivalent method, bilinear transformation method. Then there are different methods like this to obtain the discrete equivalent of the continuous time plan. So this is one approach, but this approach is not a standard approach because this approach may not work in all cases. Because if the sampling period is high, it's difficult to obtain a discrete equivalent of the continuous time. It cannot completely replace the continuous time controller if the sampling period is high. But if the sampling period is very low, that means we are sampling at very high speed, then sometimes this controller may work. But this is not a standard. Now let's come to the standard approach that of designing a digital controller in discrete time control system. So the standard approach is that, so let's consider the first block diagram that I have shown here, which is the same as the previous block diagram that I have shown. And you just think of the thing that I put in the block diagram. In the block, here G of S is the continuous time plan, and let's consider that I'm using a zero order hold circuit as the digital to analog conversion device, and I'm sampling at sampling period T. And if you consider the blocks that I have put in this box, and I'm just redrawing that once again. So you can see the zero order hold here. You can see the continuous time plan here, and you can see the sampler. And input to zero order hold is the discrete signal U of K, and output of the sampler is the discrete signal Y of K. So I am redrawing that box once again, and I am putting that as the pulse transfer function G of Z with inputs same as that of the earlier one U of K. Output is Y of K. So if you look at G of Z, it takes in discrete values of input and it outputs discrete values. That means you can represent this system by using a pulse transfer. That means you can represent this whole block, these three elements, zero order hold, the continuous time plan, and the sampler can be represented by using a pulse transfer function. So if I replace this whole box by just G of Z, then you obtain the block diagram that I have shown in the last. So you have G of Z. What is G of Z? G of Z is basically the discrete equivalent of the continuous time plan with some, in this case, with zero order hold and sampling period capital T. So if you are given with the continuous time plan G of Z, G of S, and if you know the whole device, which is the whole device that you are using, is it zero order hold or first order hold, and what is the sampling period? So if you know these three, you can find an equivalent discrete system. So you are basically discretizing the system and you are obtaining G of Z. Once you have G of Z, you have a cleaner block diagram. Earlier you had what? Zero order hold and sampler. Now I have replaced everything. Now, if you look at this system, it is now completely in discrete domain or in digital domain or in Z domain, so that you can design a discrete controller very well using this. So this is the standard approach that we use in designing a digital controller. So this is key concept in understanding about digital control system. If you do not understand this concept, you may get stuck up in some other place while understanding about this subject. That's why I have introduced this difference or this approach of designing initially itself. So I'll just repeat it once again. Here, your plan may be continuous time, but you are obtaining a discrete equivalent of the plan considering the whole device and the sampling. So you can obtain a pulse transfer function of the plan in the discretized form. Okay. So I'll just give the overview. In the first approach, we are designing the controller first, in design by emulation. So we are designing the controller in continuous time domain itself, and then we are discretizing the controller alone. So that is designed by emulation. This is not the standard approach. In standard approach, we are discretizing the plant itself. First, we are discretizing the plant. Then we are designing the control using the discretized plan. So that is the two approaches we use in designing digital controllers. Now we'll come to the root locus approach. So root locus is just one approach in designing the control. So since you know the root locus design in continuous time case, these things are familiar to you. So I'll brush it up once again. So root locus is basically, it's the locus of closed loop poles as gain K is varied from 0 to infinity. I'll elaborate on that. So I'll just repeat it. What is root locus? So root locus is nothing but it's the locus of, or it's a points, or it's a set of points of closed loop poles as you vary the gain K from 0 to infinity. So I'll introduce what is K, what is closed loop poles, and what is root locus in Z domain. Okay, so root locus based controller design in continuous time case can be extended to discrete time case. Why? Because the structure of the problem in standard form. So in the standard form, we have we came up, or we bring our problem into complete discrete domain, which is having the form which is exactly same as the continuous time case. Now everything is in digital. That's the only difference. So the root locus based control design in continuous time case can be extended to digital case as well. But only thing that you need to be bothered about is about the stability. Earlier in continuous time case, we were dealing with S plane. Now we are dealing in Z plane. For S plane, the stability region, or the stability is given by, or if the poles are on the left half of S plane, then the system is stable. But in the case of Z plane, it is inside the unit circle. So that you need to be careful about. Otherwise, the designing of root locus in Z domain is exactly same as that of the continuous time case. So now I am going into the design part. So let me ask if there are any questions so far in designing a controller. Is there any question?
No.
There is no question. Okay, wonderful. Okay, so let me continue in design of controller using a root locus. So let me consider a plan G of Z, which is given by. So let me take an example: Z minus 1 by Z square by Z minus 3 by. So remember that this is not our plan. Our plan was some continuous time plan. We have taken some approach, some whole device. We have considered some sampling period capital T. So with some whole device and with sampling period capital T, we have obtained the discrete equivalent of the plan. And now we are using that particular discrete equivalent of the plan to design the controller. Okay. So this plan, it's not directly the plan. So understand that this is the discrete equivalent of the plan. Okay. So let's consider this plan. You can see that there is a 0 at Z equal to 1. There are 3 poles in total. I'm talking about poles of the plan. So now on plan means discretized plan. So there are 2 poles at origin, since there is Z square. There is 1 pole at Z equal to plus 3 by 2. So this is about the discretized plan G of Z. Now I am considering a controller. So in root locus design, this is one of the drawback of root locus design. In root locus design, we must be able to fix, or we must be able to specify what is the control structure that I am using. So in root locus, as I have said previously, you are only able to vary the gain k. You are not allowed to vary the structure of the controller. So you are only allowed to vary the controller gain k. So you must be able to fix the type of controller that you are going to use in root locus design approach. So let's say that I am using an integral controller. So D of Z is the digital controller, and let's consider that I am using an integral controller. If you have studied PID controller in digital form, the integral term is given by 1 minus z inverse, which is given by z by z minus 1. So this is the structure of an integral controller. So I am taking an example. It can be any controller. Okay, for sake of understanding only, I am taking an example. I am considering a plan, discretized plan, which is D of z. I am considering an integral controller D of z of the form capital K, which is the gain, which we are going to do using root locus. And the structure of the controller is z by z minus 1. And if you look at the controller, it has a 0 at the origin, z equal to 0. There is a pole at z equal to 1. Okay. And the remaining things, I hope it's clear. Y of k is the output, and you are comparing with the reference R of k, and you are obtaining the error E of k, which is given to the controller, and controller outputs the control signal to the plant. Okay. So let's move ahead. As I said, in root locus, you are only allowed to vary the gain capital. You must be able to fix the structure of the controller. So what you can do is you can separate out this A from this controller block, and you can include the rest of the thing along with the plant. So if you include the rest of the part, being z by z minus 1 to the plan, you can see that z minus 1 and z minus 1 get cancelled out. One z in this controller gets cancelled out with one z in the plan. The remaining plan will be, it will be what? 1 by z into z minus 3 by. So you can incorporate the structure of the controller along with the plan and separate out the gain which you can vary in root. So what I did here is, hope it is clear. Now I have separated out the gain A, and I have included or incorporated the controller along with the discrete plan. So I am denoting it by G bar Z. So G bar Z is different from G of Z. I hope it is clear. G bar Z is G of Z along with the controller part, with the gain separated out. Okay. So G bar Z, now it becomes 1 by Z into Z minus 3 by 2. So it has only one pole at origin, and there is another pole at 3 by 2. The other things get cancelled out because we have incorporated the structure of the controller along with the planned G of Z. So now we have obtained G bar Z. So now on we will be working with G bar Z in order to plot the root locus and so on. Okay, so I hope so far it is clear. Now we'll see what is the open loop transfer function, or what is the open loop transfer gain. So open loop transfer function is basically the transfer function of the open loop structure without the feedback. So open loop transfer function is Y of Z by E of Z, which is given by, it is basically the multiplication of these two, the controller gain K and G bar Z. So G bar Z is what? G bar Z is G of Z times the structure of controller. Okay. So the open loop transfer function is K into G bar Z, which is nothing but K by Z into Z minus 3 by 2. So from this, you can see that the open loop poles are at Z equal to 0 and Z is equal to plus 3 by 2. So, from interpreting the open loop poles, you can come to the conclusion that since there is a pole outside the unit circle, the open loop system is unstable. The open loop system is unstable, but we are not uh, that much bothered about open loop system. What we are bothered about is we are bothered about or we are interested in knowing the closed loop. So the open loop transfer function is given by k into g bar z, which is k by z into z minus 3 by 2. But we would like to know where are the closed loop, because that is basically the controller design, feedback control design. You are taking the feedback from the output, you are comparing with the reference, and that is given to the open loop transfer function, and you need to see where the poles of the closed loop system lies, so that you can say about the stability and performance and other factors. So we are particularly interested to know about closed loop poles and not about open loop poles. So the closed loop transfer function is given by, you know how to obtain a closed loop transfer function from, if you are given with open loop transfer function. So closed loop transfer function is it's the ratio of y of z divided by r of z, which is given by a g bar z divided by 1 plus a g bar z, where a g bar z is what? A g bar z is the open loop transfer function. So the closed loop poles are solution of the characteristic equation of closed loop poles. Closed loop characteristic equation of closed loop transfer function. So I'll repeat: closed loop poles are the solution or roots of the characteristic equation of closed loop transfer function. So the closed loop transfer function was a g bar z divided by 1 plus a g bar z. The characteristic equation is given by a denominator equating to 0. So you will get the characteristic equation of closed loop transfer function as 1 plus a g bar z equal to 0. By taking this 1 to the other side, you will get a g bar z equal to minus 1. So this is the characteristic equation of the closed loop transfer function. So solution of the characteristic equation of closed loop transfer function gives the closed loop poles. So any z, any point in z plane which satisfies this condition is basically the closed loop poles. So remember that we are interested in closed loop poles, and we want to know where the closed loop poles lies, which gives the performance of this closed loop system. If you are giving a step input to the reference, what will be the output? It depends upon the closed loop poles. So the closed loop poles, if you are fixing some k, let's say k is equal to 1, or you are fixing some k, the closed loop poles are given by solution of this equation, a g bar z equal to minus 1. Okay, so the characteristic equation is, I already mentioned, it is a g bar equal to minus 1. So remember that it's not the characteristic equation of open loop transfer function, it is the characteristic equation of closed loop transfer function, and hence the solution of this characteristic equation gives the closed loop poles. Now, we already know that Z is a complex number, or Z is a complex plane. So if it's a complex plane, it has two variables. One is magnitude and another is angle. So this condition, the condition of characteristic equation of closed loop transfer function, or the characteristic equation is equivalently given by two conditions. One is magnitude condition and the other one is angle condition. So, any Z that satisfies the magnitude and angle condition satisfies the characteristic equation of closed loop transfer function, and such an Z is a closed loop pole. Okay. So, what is this magnitude and angle condition? It's very evident, because since Z is a complex number, it can take complex values. So a g bar z equal to minus 1 means, suppose you are considering an Z plane like this, minus 1 is a point somewhere over on the real axis towards the left side, right? So what is the magnitude? The magnitude at this point is equal to, since it is a g bar z equal to minus 1, the magnitude is 1. And what about the angle? The angle can be, it can be either plus 180 or minus 180 degree, because it denotes the the -1 point in the Z plane. So the characteristic equation, which is kg bar is equal to -1, it can be put in two conditions. One is magnitude condition, which is magnitude of kg bar is equal to 1, and angle condition kg bar is equal to plus or minus 180. So if there is any Z, or if there is any point in Z plane which satisfy these two conditions, okay, so if there is any point in Z plane for a given g bar Z and for given g, if there is given k, if there is any point in Z plane which satisfies the magnitude condition and angle condition, is a solution of the characteristic equation, or is a closed loop code. Okay. Okay. So you just understand that it has magnitude condition as well as angle condition. Okay. Now let's take an example to see the meaning of the root locus. Okay. So I already mentioned the root locus is it is the locus of closed loop codes. It's very important. You must understand that it's not about open loop codes. It's about the closed loop codes as the gain. What is that gain? It is basically the controller gain. So, and it is coming in the open loop transfer function. So it is the locus of closed loop codes as the controller gain k is being varied from 0 to infinity. So here we are considering positive numbers for k greater than 0. Let's consider a transfer function, or we are continuing with that transfer function. So we have obtained g bar z as 1 by z into z minus 3 by 2. So there is a pole at 0, there is a pole at 3 by 2 so that is about open loop poles. There is a open loop pole at 0, there is open loop pole at 3 by 2. The closed loop transfer function is given by y of z by r of z, which is given by kg bar z by 1 plus kg bar z, and the characteristic equation is given by the denominator, equating the denominator equal to 0. So 1 plus kg bar is equal to 0, and you substitute what is g bar z. What is g bar z? G bar z is 1 by z into z minus 3 by 2. So you obtain 1 plus a into 1 by z into z minus 3 by 2 equal to 0. And for this equation, if you multiply throughout by z into z minus 3 by 2, you will obtain the equation below, which is z into z minus 3 by 2 plus a equal to 0. By expanding that, you will obtain the characteristic equation. The characteristic equation was 1 plus kg bar is equal to 0. For this particular case, you will obtain the characteristic equation as z square minus 3 by 2 z plus a is equal to 0. So remember that since you have a second order open loop transfer function, you have the characteristic equation as a second order polynomial. So the characteristic equation in this case is z square minus 3 by 2 z plus a is equal to 0. So I'll repeat, what is root locus? Root locus is the locus of closed loop poles. So how to obtain the closed loop poles? Closed loop poles are obtained as the solution of the characteristic equation z square minus 3 by 2 z plus a. So root locus is the locus of closed loop poles which can be obtained from the solution of characteristic equation as k. So as this capital K is varied from 0 to infinity. So if this capital K is varied from 0 to infinity, how will the solution of this equation, solution of characteristic equation moves, or what are the values does this characteristic equation take if this capital K, which is basically the controller gain, is varied from 0 to infinity? So we'll do for this problem, we'll do it by putting different values of K for the moment, and in the next problem that I am discussing, I'll show how to plot root locus directly. Okay. So I hope you understood what is root locus. So root locus is basically it's the locus of closed loop poles, which can be obtained from the solution of characteristic equation. So it's a locus of closed loop poles as the controller gain K is varied from 0 to infinity, so that you can identify for what values of A you can design such a controller. Okay, now let's put the first value, let's put for the moment, let's put A is equal to 0. So when A is equal to 0, the equation becomes, the characteristic equation becomes z square minus 3 by 2 z plus 0 is equal to 0. That means here I am putting A is equal to 0. The solution of this is, what is the solution of this? We can take z outside. So this equation will be z into z minus 3 by 2. So the roots are, the two roots are z1 equal to 0 and the second root is z2 is equal to 3 by 2. So when A is equal to 0, when there is no gain, the roots are 0 and 3 by 2. So similarly, I have put different values. In the slide, you can see I have put A is equal to 0, I have put A is equal to 0.5, then I have put A is equal to 0.5625 for some particular reason. Then I have put A is equal to 1. So I am increasing the value of A, and I found the solution of characteristic equation, solution of the characteristic equation. So I have already found when K is equal to 0, it is the solution of 0 and 3 by 2. So please note that when capital K is 0, the closed loop poles are nothing but open loop poles. What were the open loop poles? The open loop poles were 0 and 3 by 2. So when A is equal to 0, the closed loop poles turns out to be the open loop poles itself. Okay, so you keep in mind that particular thing. So when K is equal to 0, closed loop poles are open loop poles itself. When I am increasing K to 0.5, so I am just increasing the value of K, you can see that the first root increases by 0.5 and the second root it moves from 3 by 2 to 1. So if you see the plot I have plotted the Z plane. So initially when K is equal to 0, the poles were at when K is equal to 0, the poles were at 0 and 3 by 2. Now I am increasing the gain to 0.5 so that the poles become 0.5 and 1. So this pole moves to this 0.5 location and the pole from 3 by 2 moves to the location Z equal to 1. Okay. So when I increase the gain, these two poles starts to move towards the center. Okay, and when I further increase the value of K to 0.5625, you can see that both the values are same point. So Z1 and Z2 are at 0.75. So it corresponds to somewhere over here. I hope you can see. It further increases from 0.5 to 0.75, and another root reduces from 1 to 0.75. So both the root reaches at same point when gain K is equal to 0.5625. You will see later that this point is called as breakaway point. I hope you know these things. So at breakaway point, both the roots are having same location. Now, if you further increase, what will happen to the closed loop poles? You can see that when you increase the gain from 0.5625 to 1, one of the pole moves upward and another pole moves downward. If you further increase the gain, it will go further up and another pole will go further down. So when K is equal to 1, one of the pole moves upward and another pole moves downwards. When you increase K further, it goes further up and another pole goes further down. So this is basically root locus. When the controller gain K is being varied from 0 to infinity, I'm starting from 0 and I am increasing the value of K. What is the location of closed loop poles? So you observe one thing. So observe, I already mentioned that when K is equal to 0, the open loop, the closed loop poles are at open loop poles. So that is number one observation. When K is equal to 0, the closed loop poles are nothing but open loop poles. That means the root locus branch. So these are called branches. So root locus branch starts from open loop poles. And number of branches of root locus is equal to, from this example, you can see that it is equal to number of poles or number of open loop poles. Okay, so there are two observations. One is that when K is equal to 0, closed loop poles are open loop poles, or it starts from the open loop poles, and number of branches in root locus is equal to number of open loop poles. Okay. So now coming to stability. So we are particularly interested to know the stability of the system. We know that to be stable in Z plane, the closed loop pole need to be inside the unit circle. I have drawn the unit circle. So we need both the poles to be inside the unit circle for the closed loop system to be stable. So can you tell me for what values of gain K will the closed loop pole remain inside the unit circle? So when K is equal to 0, you can see that when K is equal to 0, one pole is inside the unit circle, but another pole is not inside the unit circle. So K is equal to 0 is not a stable point for closed loop system. But when you increase the value of K, at K is equal to 0.5, both the poles are inside the unit circle. So when K is equal to 0.5, both the poles are inside the unit circle, and hence it is stable. When you further increase, then it is also inside the unit circle. And when K is equal to 1, it reaches the boundary of unit circle again. And when you increase beyond 1, it goes outside the unit circle. So the range of values of K for stability in this case is 0.5 and 1. So the K can only take values between 0.5 and 1 for stability. If it is less than 0.5, one of the pole is outside the unit circle. If it is greater than 1, then both the poles are outside the unit circle. And hence for stability, you need the gain to be between 0.5 and 1. Okay, so the good news about root locus is that you don't need to do this operation of computing the gain every time. What root locus says is that you can plot the root locus, or what is root locus? It is the locus of closed loop poles as gain K is varied from 0 to infinity by just having the information of open loop transfer function, in particular G bar Z. So if you just know G bar Z, you can plot the root locus. You can plot the behavior of closed loop poles. You can plot the behavior of closed loop pole as controller gain. Open loop gain K is varied from 0 to. So that is the best part of drawing root locus. You just need the information about the open loop transfer function G bar Z. Now let's see how we can draw that. There are certain rules. I'll just brief those rules. So the first rule, which is the zeroth rule, is something that you need to bear in mind. Those rules, as I have already mentioned, number of branches of root locus plot is equal to number of open loop poles. So what is open loop poles? Open loop poles are poles of G bar Z. So if you have G bar Z, you can get the open loop poles, and from that you can obtain the number of branches. And another thing is branches start at open loop poles and end in open loop zeros. This we haven't seen in the previous plot, but this you may know from the previous root locus knowledge, that branches start from open loop poles and end in open loop zeros. If there are not enough finite zeros, consider zeros at infinity. So in the case that we have considered, there are two poles and there are no open loop zeros. So we consider that there are two poles at infinity, and that's why those two branches are going to infinity. Okay, so another thing that you need to keep in mind is that the root locus is symmetric about the real axis. It will be always symmetric about the real axis. So if you know how the root locus behave in one half, you can draw the symmetric and you can obtain the other half. Now, in order to draw the root locus, you need to identify the open loop poles and zeros, and you need to identify the root locus points in real axis. If there are odd number of poles and zeros in the real axis, it is a part of root locus. Otherwise, it is not. So these things you know. And breakaway point, I have pointed out the breakaway point is given by dk by dz equal to 0. This equation is obtained from the characteristic equation, which is 1 plus kg bar z equal to 0. So using that equation, you find what is k in terms of z. Take the derivative dk by dz and equate to 0. You will obtain the breakaway point. And asymptotes are those branches which are going to infinity. Now, in order to compute the angles of asymptotes, you have this expression plus or minus 180 into q plus 1 by n minus 1. What is the number of asymptotes? So the asymptote is basically the branches which are going to infinity. In the case that we have considered how many branches are going to infinity, it is equal to number of poles minus number of zeros, which is n minus m. So number of asymptotes equal to n minus m, and depending upon the number of asymptotes, you need to take the value of q. If there is only one branch going to infinity, you need to take only q is equal to 0. If there are two branches, you need to take q is equal to 0 and 1. So depending upon the number of branches going to infinity, you can find the angle of asymptote by using this expression. So in the previous case that we have considered, we have two branches going to infinity. So you need to take q is equal to 0. In the previous case, we have n minus m is equal to 2. So you will get the angle of asymptote as plus 90 and plus 270, I think. Okay. So these are the rules for plotting the root locus. Next, I will do a solid problem. Before that, let me check if there are any questions. Is there any questions regarding this? Hello? Are there any questions so far?
Yes, we have 3 questions. The first
Okay.
one is that what are the advantages and disadvantages of the control systems?
Sorry, can you repeat? What are the?
What are the merits and demerits of digital control systems?
Okay. There are a lot of advantages. So I'm not taking much time to discuss that advantages right now. I'll just give a reference, a textbook for that. There is a textbook by M. Gopal, Digital Control System. I think that's the name. So I'll just mention some of the advantages. One advantage is that you can design any type of controller. There is no limitation in the type of controller being implemented in digital controller. While in analog case, you need to have the circuits. You need to implement it in circuits. So you must be able to implement those circuits. So that is one major difference. There are a lot of other differences and advantages for digital control, which I am not going now. Any other question?
Next question is, what is the relation of sampling interval with time constant of a system?
What is the relation of?
Sampling interval with time constant of a system.
Okay, there is no direct relation between sampling interval and time constant of a continuous time system. I don't know exactly what you are asking about, but if you consider a first order system, it has some time constant capital T, and that time constant will remain as the time constant of that system. And there is no direct relation between sampling period and time constant of the system.
Okay, sir. The next question is, how will we determine the maximum sampling duration possible for digital control system?
Can you repeat the question?
How will we determine the maximum sampling duration possible for digital control system?
Okay, so there is one famous theorem, the sampling theorem, which gives you the sampling period. What is the period that you can choose for sampling can be obtained by using Shannon sampling theorem.
Okay, sir. So you can continue. We have no more questions.
Okay, thank you. Okay, fine. So these are the rules for plotting root locus. I have mentioned that. Now I'll do a concrete example to see how you can plot the root locus. Okay. Let's take the problem that I have shown in the figure. Consider a continuous time plan which is given by 1 by s plus 1. So this is a continuous time plan, which is a first order plan. And let's say that I am using a zero order hold. If you have studied the transfer function of zero order hold, the transfer function of zero order hold is given by 1 minus e raised to minus ts by s. And suppose you are sampling the output signal at a sampling period of capital T. So somebody asked what is the relation. I don't see any relation between the time constant of this system and the sampling period T. It is completely independent. Okay, so we are sampling at capital T, and let's consider a integral controller itself with controller gain k, and the structure of controller is z by z minus 1. And the question is using root locus. So you need to plot the root locus, find the range of values of k, find the range of values of this capital K for which the closed loop system is stable if capital T is 0.5, capital T is equal to 1 second, and capital T is equal to 2 seconds. So here the question is if you are changing the sampling period. So initially you consider that you are sampling at 0.5 seconds, then you sample at 1 second, and then you sample at 2 seconds. Is there any change in the range of values of k? So root locus gives the range of values of k for the closed loop system to be stable, right? So for t is equal to 0.5, what is the range of values of k? So t is equal to 1 second and t is equal to 2 seconds. What are the range of values of k? I hope the question is clear. The system is a continuous time plan. We are using a zero order hold, and we are using a sampler which is sampling with time period capital T. And for different sampling period, what is the range of values of capital K for the closed loop system to be stable? Okay, so so this is what are the different steps in designing. The first step is you need to obtain the discretized model. So the continuous the plan is in continuous time model. We cannot work on root locus with a continuous time model, but we need to discretize the continuous time plan. So since we are using zero order hold as a hold device, we need to use zero order hold equivalence to obtain the discretized version of the continuous time plan. So 1 by s plus 1 is the continuous time plan. So using zero order hold equivalence, if you have studied that, you can obtain g of z as 1 minus z inverse times z transform of g of s by s. So g of s is the planned transfer function that is given. You divide it by s, g of s by s, take the z transform of g of s by s, multiply it with 1 minus z inverse, you will obtain the discrete equivalent or zero order hold equivalent of the continuous time plan. So using that, if you do some mathematical operations, and you will come up with the discrete equivalent of the continuous time plan as g of z as 1 minus e raised to minus t divided by z minus e raised to minus t. So I encourage you to work on this. It's not very easy. You need to find, you need to take the inverse Laplace transform first. Then you need to take the Z transform to obtain this. Okay, so it's not very easy, but you just work out to obtain the pulse transfer function or equivalent discrete of the plan. G of Z is 1 minus e raised to minus t divided by Z minus e raised to minus t. Now, including the controller, the open loop transfer function is k into g bar z, or incorporating the controller. So k into z by z minus 1 is the integral controller that we consider. So multiplying it with g of z, you obtain g bar z as z into 1 minus e raised to minus t divided by z minus 1 into z minus e raised to minus t. So this is g bar of z. Now you are coupling or integrating both the discrete plan with the controller. So G bar Z is having a 0 at origin. There are two poles, one at Z equal to 1, and another pole, that's the interesting point. Another pole is at e raised to minus t. And that pole location depends on the sampling tool. So there is the significance of sampling tool. We know that root locus starts from the open loop poles. So here the open loop pole vary as per the sampling period. For t is equal to 0.5, the pole location will be e raised to minus 0.5. For t is equal to 1, the pole location will be e raised to 1, e raised to minus 1. For t is equal to 2 seconds, the pole location will be e raised to minus 2. So the pole location varies. Okay, so this is the block diagram. So the open loop transfer function is g bar z equal to z by z into 1 minus e raised to minus t divided by z minus 1 into z minus e raised to minus. So let's take the case of t is equal to 0.5. With t is equal to 0.5, substituting capital D is equal to 0.5, you will obtain g bar z as this, which is 0.3935 z divided by z minus 1 into z minus 0.6065. So this is the open loop transfer function with which you need to plot the root locus. So I have said that you just need the knowledge of open loop transfer function to plot the root locus. You just need the knowledge of open loop transfer function to plot the root locus. So now how to plot the root locus? You remember that three things that we can observe. One is that the number of branches of root locus is equal to number of poles. Here it is 2. Second thing is it starts at open loop poles. So open loop poles at z equal to 1. So this is one open loop pole. Another open loop pole is 0.6065. And third thing is it is symmetric about real axis. Now, so in order to plot the root locus, you plot the open loop zeros and open loop poles. Open loop 0 is at the origin. Open loop zeros are at z equal to 1 and z equal to. So these are open loop poles. So root locus starts at open loop poles. Now, in order to find the root locus point in real axis, you find the number of open loop poles and zeros in the real axis. So if you check this region, you have only one pole, hence it is odd number of poles, hence this region is a root locus region. And if you check this particular region, there are even number, hence it is not a region in root locus plot. If you look at this region, it has 3 number of poles and zeros, hence it is odd, and hence this also is a root locus region. Okay, so the second step is plot the root locus in real axis. Now you find the breakaway point. So I have written here how to find the breakaway point. You consider the characteristic equation, which is 1 plus k g bar z equal to 0. Here also we are just using g bar z. So if you substitute, you can write k in terms of z, and if you differentiate and equate to 0, you will obtain the breakaway point as 0.77 and minus 0.77. So by observation, you can see that 0.77 is the breakaway point and minus 0.77 is the break-in point. And you can find how many asymptotes are there. The number of poles minus number of 0 is 1. So there is one asymptote, and if you find the angle, it will be minus 180. So what is for stability? So when k is equal to the left half or some point, it goes outside the unit circle. Hence, the k can increase till this z equal to minus 1. For k greater than this point, the system becomes unstable. So you can use the magnitude condition to find the critical gain. So you remember what is the magnitude condition? Magnitude condition is magnitude of a into g bar z at z equal to minus 1, because that is the point where we need to find the gain. And if you substitute, you can find kc as 8.165. So you can increase k from 0 to 8.165, so that system will be stable. Now when t is equal to 1 second, if you plot the root locus, you can see that the pole location now are moved little towards the left, and you can similarly do the operation, and you can find the range of value is reduced to 4. Further reduced to 2.62. So you can plot the root locus and see how the gain k is being varied. So as a summary, I can say that as a sampling range of value of k for which you can design a stable closed loop system reduces. That is obvious, right? So if the sampling period increases, the range of value of k reduces. Or if the sampling period is less, you will have more range of k for which the system is stable. So this is about a root locus and how to design a digital controller in a root locus. So in root locus design, the key thing is that you must be able to specify the type of controller that you are going to use. You are only allowed to vary or adjust the controller gain and see how the closed loop poles are being located in the Z plane. So using root locus, you can design an effective digital controller. So with this, I am stopping this. If there are any more questions, we'll discuss that.
So we have one last question.
Okay.
In realizing a digital control system, we
Okay.
need hardware to implement digital control systems. What are those hardware commonly used?
Okay. So in order to implement the digital controller, you can implement in any processor. For example, computer is a good example. You can implement the digital controller. So we have a digital processor in our computer. So that can act as a digital controller. Or the most common example is the microcontrollers. You are familiar with Arduino. You are familiar with Raspberry Pi, the microcontroller boards. So they can act as a digital controller. So these are the hardware platforms that can be used as a digital controller.
Okay, so next question is, can we generalize the statement that as sampling interval decreases, gain increases?
Can you repeat the question?
Can we generalize the statement that as sampling interval decreases, gain increases?
Yeah, it's generally that is the pattern that we have seen in this example as well. As sampling period is increased, the gain decreases, or as sampling period is reduced, the range of value of k increases. But I'm not sure if that is the general thing. But mostly I think it is the general thing, because that is the obvious way to see the case. But I'm not sure about generalizing that.
Okay, sir, thank you. One more question is there. How will we determine the optimum sampling rate?
Okay. So you are talking about in this question, the question is how to find the optimal sampling rate. So that's a research level question. So you need to find some optimal objective in that case. What is the objective that you want to optimize? So depending upon that, you must be able to write it as an optimization problem, and you must solve that to find an optimal sampling period. So it's not very easy to find the optimal sampling period. For that, you need to be able to specify what is the objective that you want to optimize, and using that, you can find the optimal sampling period.
Okay, thank you, sir.